A few people, including myself, have made the comment, it's a shame that lovely HGT Precision Gearbox, Sequential Gearbox, goes under the car and no one will see it. It just disappears. The only time we'll see it is if I take the car to pieces or you're looking at videos or pictures. Other than that, she's gone. You don't see it. You might maybe hear it, probably not. There's a transfer box going to make about 10 times the amount of noise. So there is a solution for that. The solution is one of those. It's a lovely billet CNC'd. That's better lighting for you right there, isn't it? That's a good spot to stand. Billet CNC'd gear lever. So 7075 at the top here, 6061 at the bottom, all anodized and everything. Lovely hardened steel shafts through there with roller bearings, etc. Work of art. You imagine how long I would spend trying to make something like that. Simply not worthwhile. Far better just to click the buy now or whatever. Talk to the man. Get it all organised. This is the reverse lever that I talked about in a previous video. So you smash it down a gear. Click, click, click. You're in neutral. It'll come up on the dash. It'll tell you you're in neutral. Or you can let the clutch out and the car doesn't move. You know you're in neutral. It won't let you go in reverse anyway. There is a lockout. So you can't select reverse and first or something at the same time. So you have to push this little lever on the back of the lever, the big lever. See this little one here? You push that. Then you can pull this big one. So you're in reverse. The little one comes back out. It locks it in reverse. You back yourself out of the sand trap that you just found yourself in because you're going far too fast. Not enough brake. You ran out of talent. Or you're coming off the trailer or whatever. And then when you're done with that, you don't want to go backwards anymore. You push the lever. You're back out of reverse. Click. Forwards. Away you go. Bang, bang, bang through the gears. Now we still need to get ourselves a proper load cell type motorsport shift cut knob. You can run the car like this without one. You just have to drive it appropriately. Now, I'm not 100% confident that I can do that. Let's be realistic. I probably can if I want to. I probably will get it right, and there probably won't be any more trouble than what there would be with any other semi-amateur, semi-professional. No one pays me to drive. At total amateur driver. Probably can figure it out just as much as anyone else can. But I do want to set up the proper flat shifting with a motorsport shift cut knob on there. We will organise that at some point in the very near future before the car's running on the track, hopefully. So with the lever arrangement, when a normal customer, never mind me, don't worry about me, a normal customer buys it, you get yourself a rod with a couple of rod ends. One's left hand thread, one's right hand thread. That one's the right hand thread. That end of the rod is not threaded, so you figure out how long you want it to be, cut it to that length, and put a right hand thread into the end of it. Nice touch. Of course, if you were left to try and organise the left hand thread, that's a nuisance because left hand threads are much harder to come by, taps rather. Not many people have them kicking around, and they're only useful, of course, for that purpose only. There's two different height of shift knob itself, heights, so that gives you some adjustment there. Of course you could make some sort of an adapter if you wanted longer, but we're good with the length that we have. And it comes with a shifter cable. Now my gearbox came with a shifter cable, so I've now got two of these. Hopefully I'm not going to require two of those, so we'll be sending one of those back to our man when we get there, when we've got it all up and running. So I've had to sit in the car, in here, had to muck around with the lever as best as I can do. Obviously there's no hole in the transmission tunnel right now. It will be soon. And I think the seat needs to come back a little bit. Sorry, a cough was trying to come out there. Just a little bit of probably Coca-Cola running down the back of my throat or something. So we do have some adjustment here to pull the seat back, so I want to run it back one hole there. I will have to drill new holes in the front there because these brackets have been fiddled with, as you are all totally aware. So I want to shift that back one position and get myself a bit more comfortable in the car in the right spot. Then I'll suss out where that lever is going to go in there and how we're going to go about attaching it to the vehicle. It's not going to do us any good putting a fancy bullet machined gear lever assembly with all close tolerances and everything and slapping it onto 1mm thick panel steel with no reinforcing or anything like that. Thing's going to flex around, it's going to crack, it's going to be no good. So I'll get onto that shortly. That door's going to self-close. Awesome. Hope it didn't lock. In here, I have moved, not permanently affixed just yet, but I've moved our Linkage Lambda units, tucked them around there behind the intercooler. Maybe not ideal having them hard mounted on the engine, essentially. They're cable tied on there at the moment to give it a little bit of a cushion. You can't really see it, but there's a cable tie looped around this bracket and another one looped around that way onto the unit. So it's not loose, but it's not firmly affixed. So it will have some ability to jiggle a little bit rather than taking all of the impact, every single movement from the engine. Now, right hand side pretty good. It's not 100% perfect yet. I can do better than this. We've got a reasonably long lead on that and it's tucked around and it all looks, in my opinion, tidy enough for what it is, for what it's doing, etc. Left hand side, unfortunately our sensor's got a shorter lead on it and we can't leave it like that. That doesn't look right. That kind of spoils the whole thing, right? So a new sensor is not too badly priced. So there's nothing wrong with the sensor. I can buy a whole new one for I think somewhere ballpark of 120, 160 and that sort of money. You can buy a extension harness, where it is. Undo this plug and basically just put an extension in between there and that'll make that work, but that's half the price of a new sensor. And I know what'll happen if I put the extension harness in and I'll drive the car and the first thing that'll happen is the sensor will fail. And then I need to buy another sensor anyway, so we won't win there. Not that they fail very often, but this is running on E85. It's probably the worst environment for it, or one of. So, small amount of progress has been made there. The intercooler has actually been off this morning. I've done some stuff and things in behind there that you guys can't see, and put it all back together, so that's good. I want to do this gear lever thingy. Let's do that. Rightio, Kiwi Band LAB cranking away in the background there. I'll put some tape on there because we don't want to damage our absolutely immaculate, flawless paintwork in here. So, that there is the centre line of the car as measured from the sills, which are parallel. So, that line is dead true to the centre line of the car, which is true enough to the centre line of the engine. The engine's not 100% square to the car, but it's very, very close. 1 or 2 degrees in it. That should be fine. You don't want your gear shifter, it's just such a work of art. You don't want that all wonky, because imagine if you mounted it in the car like that, you pull the gear lever back and it's pushing the rod, it'll load up the bearings and everything one way or the other in the end of the gearbox, wear everything out eventually. So you want it pretty square, so that's square enough. There's a hole saw there, there's some earmuffs and some other stuff and things. I'm going to sit in here and figure out where that needs to go and drill some holes. Glenn, why did you, looks good, eh? Why did you put it in the middle when the shifty thingy is off to the side and this is a left mount? Be quiet, hoist. Shift lever thingy, that should be over here. Because reasons. Let's look. Self-closing mechanism needs some work apparently. Here's our mouse. Here's our computer screen. Shift lever. Pivot point. Goes through the floor. It's the floor here, right? I think the pivot point's probably a little bit higher than that. That'll do. Hang on, let me fix this. Why not? Fix it. Beautiful. Beautiful. And we got the pivot point there, and we've got a rod that comes off here. Now, as I explained earlier, the gearbox is in the car backwards, right? So on the top of the gearbox, this is all full of cogs and stuff in here. It's got a shaft. There's another shaft. There's some cogs. And it's got the flange that comes out here and drives the roundy thing, and everything else happens. There's a little box on the side, on the top here somewhere, and it's got a lever. Currently it comes down. To go up a gear, I'm pretty sure that needs to go forward, because normally that would be the front of the car, and we pull the gear lever back to go up. So that lever needs to go forward. I say I'm pretty sure. I know it's right. That's what it needs to do, okay? There's no debate. So if we hook this here up to there, and remember we're sitting looking that way. That's the front of the car. We would need to push the gear lever forward to go up a gear, which is backwards to what sequential race cars are. Sequential gearboxes in race cars. Someone somewhere one day will get it wrong, and they'll go down a gear, and the engine will do 59 million RPM, and that'll be bad times for everybody. So possibly slightly less revs than that, but too many anyway. So especially if you're down change from 7,500 RPM, that's going to be bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to come through here. There's going to be an arrangement here with a pivot here, and then it's going to go to there. There's another battery is just charged. Gee, they go flat fast, don't they, on cordless drills sometimes? 2 holes in the car. So here's looking at it from plan. This is elevation. Here's plan view. We're going to go like this, and we're going to have a pivot point here, and we're going to have a lever with a pivot point there, the pivot point there, and that one is going to go onto the lever, which is on the gearbox there. So when we pull this one back, it's going to pull that way, and that one's going to go that way, which is going to go click on the gearbox, which goes up a gear. Have I designed the whole thing 100% yet? No. Let's have a look underneath and see what we've got. Wait, I forgot something critical. Now that we've got the gear lever sitting in there, it's vital that we sit in here and make brum brum noises and brum click brum click. So we don't have to make the brum brum noises, but I need to make sure that's where I want that, because right now as things stand, I can put this a bit further forward. I think I just scratched it. No, that was clever. Good thing we won't see that point. Stop scratching it, Glenn. What is that hitting? Okay, too far forward. So the hole's, that's what's going on. Right, the hole's not quite big enough to have it that far forward. That's sufficient movement. How professional is that? I have to take it out and have a look and see how badly I've damaged it now. That's good. I don't think we're going to need a gear lever that moves that far, and we're not hitting any switches and trying to hook the starter motor while we're changing gears or anything like that, so that's fine. That is, I'm pretty sure, yes, that was quite a long way towards the front of the hole, see? No, I've taken a tiny little bit off the corners. What a shame. Nobody sees that. That's fine. I'm thinking I might polish this one anyway, so that's alright. Alright, well, possibly even the shorter knob. I think this is actually quite a tall knob, and my hand is quite a... No, it might be fine like that. It's nice and close to the gear. Look, you can touch the gear lever and the steering wheel at the same time, so that's pretty race car. Pretty good. Right now we go underneath, now we've figured out where we want it. It's actually a little bit further forward than what I had drilled the holes for, but that's fine. And see what we've got under there, whether it's actually going to work or not. Rightio, while I was off camera, I've installed our new composite drive shaft. That'll be mint. It is going to be strong as. Bonded on there, rock solid. Of course, that just gives us an idea of the maximum height we've got for our shaft. I mean, it's not even going to be as big as that. That's from the center line, right? So that would be the outside diameter basically of our CV joints, which only travel to about here, and then shaft slightly smaller diameter than that. So we've got many heaps of room, lots. No problems with that. Should be sufficient space. Oh, now it's stuck. Don't do that. Should be sufficient space to build a bell crank box arrangement or something in here. We've got 90, well, it's not quite 90 degrees, but we've got a nice angle thing to give us some support up and down and left and right. We can even brace across to there. Build something that's bomb-proof, it's not going to move, that's going to do that thing that I was talking about. Take input from here, cross it over, change it to the other direction. And then we don't have to worry about trying to flip that lever up the other way and either use the shorter hole or get clearance from the trans tunnel and all that sort of carry on. I think it's just an easier, better, smarter way to go about it. We've got, I'm going to call it from here to here, 70 or 80 millimeters of offset there, which gives us about 35 to 40 millimeters from the pivot points, if you know what I mean, from the extremity to the center line. So that should be absolutely fine. I've got over in this mess way over here, there's a big chunk of billet that we can make something out of. I've got some roller bearings and stuff kicking around, so we should be into that at some point very soon. Turns out the rod ends I've got, they're 8 millimeters. That's, I don't want to run those smaller than these ones. The HGT supplied ones are 10 millimeters. These are 8. Let's not use those, so that's unfortunate. They were in my box of spares and amongst some other bits and pieces. Needle roller bearings. Yeah, nah, they're probably a bit small as well, actually, to be honest, and potentially going to cause some problems. So we'll go and we'll pop down to our mates at, there's lots of spares in here, at Waikato Bearings. I think after tomorrow, I think we drop down alert levels at last and get something a bit like this, but not that big. It's a bit big, eh? Because the material that I want to use to build my lever, which is going to look like, I got a pen cap in my mouth now. There we go. It's on the floor. Now it's under the bench. It's going to look like, it's going to be more symmetrical than that. It's going to look like that, right? And then the side view, it's going to have a fork on each side. I hope I'm not drawing something rude unbeknownst to me. Like that. Not as much of a fork because I need to put a bearing. Let's put 2 in, eh? Let's make it really rigid. Let's put a bearing on each side like this. Don't worry about these lines here. They're not there. That'll be sufficient. 10mm hole through here. 10mm hole through here. Clearance for the rod end on that side and t'other way on the other side. And then I've got to build some sort of a contraption to hold this. But that'll be pretty easy really. All we need is a decent sized stud through here. You just put a nut or whatever on here as long as you've got this rock solid at the other end and mount it to the vehicle so it can't twist, pull, turn, torque, etc. If you're thinking about commenting with suggestions on how I could improve on what I just talked about, it's too late. I already changed my mind. I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. I'm doing something different. So I was thinking about angles and how we can have more room so that we've got less loads going on sideways on levers and stuff and getting things a bit nicer and everything. And then I sort of took a step back and looked at the car and thought, there's heaps of room up there. And we like having weight going forward on this car. Why don't we run the lever from here? In fact, we can modify this. I can build something that goes in here that comes off to the side, or we can put some spacer in here. It doesn't have to be two separate ones. We can put a finger in there to make that one big solid thing, and we can run some bolts through here, and we can put a pivot way out the side here. Do that all up nice and tight. We can run a rod. Might as well just use all of the rod that we've got there. Come from here all the way forward. A massive amount of room here to have a huge, big, wide, big lever. The wider that lever is, the less error / slop we get in between here and here. You imagine if we had that little wee tiny little wee thing this wide, and it would only need to move a tiny little bit to have heaps of slop and everything, right? So you have massive big wide one. It's betterer. So we can have this offset, rod comes to here, pivot here somewhere, big wide lever here, and then run a long lever all the way back to there. That's more betterer. That's what I'm going to do. I've locked it in until I come back to the car tomorrow. Right. Cheers, guys. Bye.